Hey, welcome to Saturday Night Live. Glad that you're with us. Whether you're with us live or whether you're reviewing this later on, because I know a lot of folks look at it at different times. We got many different folks on. We got some new folks. A Miracle that's going to be coming in behind me, and she just waved at everyone. And so she's she's watching me and make sure I do everything right, right? And so anyway, we're glad you're here. We've got quite a few things going on, and I forgot to tell the team one of the main questions I was going to be asking, and I'll go ahead and ask it now. I'll give it to folks that are on already, and that is our way out of shame. And we'll be talking about that because tonight's about dealing with our shame. Isn't that great?
Yes.
So excited.
Excited. And Mr. Zach is going to be our MC. So, way Zach.
Well, welcome to Saturday Night Live, everybody. We're glad you're here, and we're still trying to take precautions, but we're looking forward to when we can get back together whenever that day is. So,
Hey, welcome to Saturday Night Live.
Some feedback somewhere there.
Yeah, it was Doug's phone.
Doug's phone. Okay.
But I turned it down. But hey, Miracle's here. I could just blame her, but that wouldn't be right.
Yeah. Well, so we can blame everything on her.
Right.
So if it goes wrong tonight, it's Miracle's fault. See. Said. There you go. It's good to see you, Miracle.
Good to see you, Zach.
So I just checked. Is Patty with us?
I haven't seen Patty yet.
I didn't see her. So do we want to have somebody else jump in on the steps or come back to that in a little bit?
Come on, Patty.
Okay. You all right with that, Debbie?
Huh?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, Miracle, you got it. Go ahead.
Okay. 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We'll accept when to do so or injure them or others. Step 10, we continue to take a personal inventory and when we promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for His will for us and the power to carry it out. Step 12, having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice principles in all of our affairs. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Miracle.
Woo!
Welcome.
We believe in the steps around here at SNL, and if you've never worked the steps, I encourage you to do so. If you truly do the steps you don't work the steps work you, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
We're going to move along. Paul, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, Paul's going to do this step for us tonight. Welcome, Paul.
Paul.
Yay, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Okay. Step 5. We admitted to God, ourselves, and to another being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 5 is probably the hardest part of the step because we have to learn how to trust somebody. And then it's kind of a 2-step thing. You trust somebody and you get those wrongs off your chest, those evil demons come out of the darkness and they become so much smaller. But on forgiveness to yourself and the hurt, pain, and shame that come with those go away. And the section I'm talking about tonight is on feelings of shame. And in the Bible reading on the step, it says, shame has kept many of us in hiding, The thought of admitting our sins and ourselves to another human being stirs up feelings of shame and fear of being publicly exposed. Teachers of the religious law and the Pharisees who had been caught in the act of adultery, and they put her in front of a crowd. Teacher, they said to Jesus, the law of Moses says, just what do you say? And Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up and said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first one. Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, way one by one, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Many believe that it was the dust that caused the accusers to leave. Perhaps he was listing the secret sins of the Jewish leaders. If this was true, it gives us a beautiful picture of the Jesus is, a person whom we can safely expose our secrets. Our confessor needs to be someone who is not surprised and will not be waiting to condemn us. Such a person needs to take private note of our wrongs, writing them in the soft dust, not etching them in stone and posting them in public. The shame can be a trigger for addictive behavior. Be careful about whom we choose to confide in. I had a couple of thoughts this week, and several years ago, I was down at the soccer field. My kids were playing soccer, and it had flooded over here in Baxter, and there was a good couple of inches of mud on the field. And parents come park along the outside edge of the field and don't watch the game. But before the game, somebody kicked, and it came over to where I was standing, so I was just going to kick that ball back. And when it come, I did a good soccer kick. I planted my left foot and went to kick, and when I did, my left foot went out from underneath me, and both feet went in the air, and I landed flat in these 3 inches of mud and looked like a mud monster. And that's kind of what happens to us when with our life in our lives. People can see the mistakes and they know what we've done. And that day, although it wasn't like an evil, terrible sin, it was still really embarrassing because people could see that I'd been rolling in the mud. Folks that didn't know me would walk by and stare, and they'd laugh. Folks that did know me would ask what's happened, and they would laugh. And there was really nothing I could do about it at that time because my purpose was to be at the game and to watch my kids. So I had to bear the brunt of their judgments at the time, which now makes for a really funny story. But then on the other hand, we're 30 years later, and I'm telling this really funny story about something that was not traumatic in a real way, but just something embarrassing because they could see that I had fallen. And a lot of people take pleasure in that when they see that. That's why we have to be careful about who we pick. But the ending of that story is when the game was over, I went home and threw my clothes in the laundry, and I took a bath, and I was clean as the day I was born. And the stain and embarrassment went away with just a little bit of soap and water. And the forgiveness that we get from God is stronger than soap and water. Another thing I was thinking about is we look at the mistakes that we make. And for the most part, they may be thought out and planned and just really stupid mistakes that we make, but they're still mistakes. Last night I was awake for a long time thinking about what if I was driving down the road 60 miles an hour, not paying attention, and I didn't notice it until the last minute, and I blew through that red light. Does that make me a terrible person? Or was it just an error? And it's just an error. And I've actually, most of us that drive forward, you go blowing through the stoplight light or the stop sign, and you start looking for the cop because you know he's coming after you. But you look around a little bit and like, hey, I got by with that. There's nobody there. And nothing happens. So same story. Say you sign, and there was a cop and he chases you down, he's going to give you a ticket. Does that make you a terrible person? You made an error, just an error, and you get your ticket. What was your error? You weren't paying attention. You blew through the stoplight. But do the same story again. You're flying along, not paying attention. You blew through the stoplight, and you almost hit another car. You think, wow, crap, that was close. Something really bad could have happened. And so does that make you an awful, terrible person? No, you just had an error. You inattentively went through the stop sign. So we'll do the story again. You went section and you hit somebody. And so now you're caught, for sure caught. But are you a terrible person? Do you just make the same error? You were just not paying good attention and you made the same error. So are you an evil, terrible person because of that? So we'll go a little next step farther on this thing. You blew through the stoplight, you hit somebody, and you injured really bad. Well, what was your mistake? Your mistake was blowing through the stop sign because you weren't paying attention. Consequences have gotten to be greater, but your error is no different. So you're not a mean, terrible person. You just mistake we have in every example. So we'll go back through this stop sign again, and this time we hit and we killed somebody. Does that make you a mean, terrible, horrible person? No, it was the same mistake that it was in the beginning when you just weren't paying, blew through the stop sign and there was nobody there. It's an error, and we get into this because of maybe a few bad decisions and not paying good attention and not planning life. But that doesn't mean that we're horrible people. So you need to give yourself a break when it comes time to do this. You don't have to carry around this horrible because you made a bad decision. You know, the first time you picked up whatever the drug was and you weren't planning on into a lifestyle that it turned out to be. It was just a really bad mistake and turned into a control, but it doesn't make you a horrible person. Your actions are actions, and you may be guilty of your actions, but your actions you don't have for your entire life. One of the smartest men I ever knew, and if you're writing things down, write this down, at some point in time told me, you no longer have a need to punish yourself. And I think that's one of those 3-time things. You no longer have a need to punish yourself. You no longer have a need to punish yourself. You're not required to just be for the rest of your life over a mistake. No matter how bad that mistake is, that's all it really is a bad life, is an error. And truth be told, if you look around, a lot of us make the same mistakes. Stoplight example. You know, some people don't get caught. Some people don't wind up in jail. Some people don't get addicted. Decision, they just don't have the same consequences. Consequences are different than you. Consequences is what happens because you are actually guilty of what you did, but you don't have to be ashamed of what you did in life. You don't have to carry that in your heart and continually beat yourself up. And that's what we tend to do. I love what Zach always says when he says you should treat yourself like somebody you're trying instead of yourself, because we're always the hardest on our own selves. Another thought that came along with this traffic accident thing last night was the guy that got hit and injured, not his fault. He had nothing to do with it. And a lot of people who are caught up in addiction are carrying around guilt and shame for something somebody else did. You know, something that happened to them when they were younger, whether they were abused or mentally, physically, sexually, whatever happened, and they think that is their fault, and it's not your fault. That belongs to the other guy. That belongs to the guy who made a really mistake that needs to be in the meeting and figuring out how to get his life. You don't have to carry somebody else's garbage because they mistreated you. That's not yours. You don't own it. And so you should give it up. And, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but the fact is, it's not yours. And you don't need to punish yourself for something somebody else did because it's not yours. And that's pretty close to the end. But remember, whatever you're having the feelings of shame for and guilt, you don't have up over that. We take a minute. Yep, I screwed up. Take responsibility. I did the thing. Now move on. And when you quit beating yourself up, I no longer have a need to punish myself. Then you get some true freedom. And when you get ready to do this, talking to somebody else about it, one of the things you'll find out is that the guy you're talking to, that he's done, and we're all guilty of something. So when it comes time to share, you're not alone. That's why we do this together. That's why we go through the steps together. That's why we go through recovery together. It's because it find out that we're all human. And you've done your thing, and it looks big and ugly and terrible to you. But the fact is, it's going to be a really small monster when it comes out. And love you guys. That's what I got. Have a good evening.
Whoa, whoa, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
That was really good, Paul. I'm just sitting here processing what you said. And you said a lot, and it's kind of weird. Usually when we're at SNL, you kind of feel some stuff going on in the room, and I don't know how this makes any sense to anybody else, but I kind of feel something going on in the room. If that makes any sense. And if you're feeling that, and that you need to stop beating yourself up and just let God love you again, then just take that. You can't pay for it. None of us never pay enough. And we try, though, don't we? We try to pay for those mistakes that we make, and we torture ourselves and beat ourselves up and trash ourselves and die sometimes, and we're not actively committing suicide, but we're passively committing suicide because we're putting all kinds of stuff in our body. So if that's you, I think what I was saying, through Paul there was that you just need to stop. It's okay. I can't pay enough for the stuff that I've done. If I try to pay my whole life, we can just take His grace and mercy, no matter how bad it is, no matter how bad we want to, no matter how sorry we are. He understands. He loves us anyway. Doesn't matter what it is. Paul was talking about killing somebody. He run the stop sign, take a life. I've been really, really close to that. So. Wanted to do it, planned it, committed to it. Only reason why I didn't is because, God intervened, or I would have. So, I'm not proud of it, but he loves me anyway. Paul, I appreciate that. And we're going to move on. Angie, are you ready?
Yes,
All right, Angie's up on reflection.
that was good, Paul. Thank you. On this particular item, I personally, or this particular part of step 5, I personally have struggles with, simply because I am one of those people that hold the shame in forever. And I think I turn it loose, and then, it's like, this is why it's so important to have somebody else that you talk to about it, because I feel like I can just, release my shame to God and everything will be just fine. Which, most part it does. But in my mind is so powerful, it just keeps bringing all that back up, and everything just keeps coming back to me. And I don't really give it up. If you have somebody there to help you be accountable, if you gave that away, you don't have to have it no more. Shame is something that is very hard to get rid of. But in Romans 8:1, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. So once we are in Christ, we have no once you start following God and keep following him and continue with what he wants you to do, then everything just kind of starts falling. I don't know how, I don't know why, I guess it's fate. Everything starts falling into place and then to get better. I have a tendency to slip back and to my old ways, if nothing else. On these questions, something about it, saying something about what scares me about knowing the exact nature of wrongs. People might actually think different of me. There's, I care too much what people think of me or the impression that they get of me. I think it was Doug that had told me, kind of put it to me like God, because God's the only one that can judge you, and he says you're just fine. So coming to terms with all of that, it's been hard for me to even be able to admit to other people my wrongdoings, but I'm learning. And that's all I have. Zach?
That was good. I was quick.
I know. I'm fast. I'm trying to keep you fast, I tell you. I have like 2 pages of notes over here, if that helps, but I read it. It's all
fast. All right. Well, Doug, you ready?
Yes, I am. But I'd like to give everybody a chance to say hello, Whitney. So I'm giving you a heads up. We can start with we'll go with Lisa, and then Kate, and Paul. Did you say hello when you said hello? So you'll say hello after Kate. So and then we'll go from there. Debbie, you'll be. And Alicia, you'll come up you'll bring up the rear here, okay? Okay. Let's go, Lisa.
Hello.
Hi.
You say a little more than hello, greet the people.
Hi.
Okay, who was next? I don't remember. Paul, I think you were next, Paul.
For Kate.
Yeah, well, She went a hello, and that was as far as she's going to go. Thank you, Kate.
Hey,
You're
everybody, I'm
welcome.
glad you're here with us tonight.
Yeah, Debbie, you're next.
Yes, hello, everybody. Glad you're here tonight. I'm glad I'm here. I just ran in here at the last minute. I am muting and unmuting on my own here because I live on the railroad tracks and we have a trains that go by every once in a while. So, that's why I'm muting every once in a while. So, but we're glad everybody's here and I'm glad that I get to talk to everybody. And
It looks like you're exercising or something.
well, I am. How can you tell that, Doug? You only have a waist up shot.
Well,
But I a bicycle wheel thing here that I was doing just to get some circulation in my legs.
okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you. How about that? And we're gonna go to Ashley.
Hello, Saturday Night Live family. It's good to see you guys again.
Love you, Angie.
I've
We're
missed
glad
all
you're
you.
here. We're
Thank
glad
you.
you're here.
Thank you.
And now we're gonna let Miracle greet everybody, even though she's read the steps and everything. So Miracle, won't you?
Good evening, everybody. Glad you keep tuning in. Keep doing the steps they were.
Hey, Chance, you want to say hi? You can say hi from there.
It says hi.
Could you hear Chance?
Yep.
They said hi. I said hi. You graduated, didn't you, Chance?
Yeah.
Oh, happy graduation.
Congratulations.
Right. Did Angie, did you want to take your turn in the spotlight?
Well, I already have, I do believe, but hun, good to be here and glad you guys are here.
Thank you, Angie. Before we get started, does anyone have anything they'd like to share before we get going?
Well, I can share a little bit.
All right.
Okay, well, I too graduate, but tomorrow from Guiding Light Ministries. I've been sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been sober for a little over 7 months.
Yeah.
I don't take any psych meds at all. I've never been happier. Things are just going really well. I've never been more fit ever. And shame. That's funny that we would talk about shame my first night on here. On the couch one day at home, actually, and the Lord spoke to me and he said, "You no longer have to be ashamed anymore." And that really struck with me because, like, I had been carrying so many things my whole adulthood, but it was my childhood and I didn't realize it. Just things that he started dealing with me, one thing right after another. And the Lord is breaking chains for real. And the trust that I have, all I had was a glimmer of hope. So I wanted to die. It got to that point of finally coming to the end of myself. 10 years of really knowing the Lord and walking ahead of him and not doing things the way he wanted and doing whatever I wanted to do. And, I'm used to that and getting whatever I want, but that changed, and just learning to believe that he said that, whatever his promises were that, he was going to do. It was so hard, and coming off all my medication and then trusting him. But the faith had to come first before the trust. The Lord is faithful. He will do it. Everything that he says, his word is true. I'm standing on his promises. And I'm utterly amazed of the things that he's done for me. I mean, for real, through hardship, through the toil. And I mean, the last tragedy that happened in my life, God took that and turned it around for the good. And losing my husband and everything and deal with the shame that came from that was unbearable. So I ran from God again and used every day, used drugs. And to come out of that alive and a better person, you know,
Yes.
it's huge. And
Mm.
knowing now we have a relationship. You know, I didn't have that before. You know, the Lord loved me and I was on a pit and I just didn't really know him. And he's pruning me and purging me. And it was really hard at first to feel that, but it's the best feeling in the world for real. And to have that heart transplant, to take him to, you know, he's working on me. And that stony heart that I had, there was so much stuff inside of me, and he'll be working on me till I die, of course. But it's just amazing what he can do, you know, if you just let him. And he speaks to me all day long. I gave him control one day. He said, I've been in control all this time anyways, Alicia. So to do that, you know, to step out in that, walk in that every day has totally changed my life. And I'm becoming faithful. I'm producing fruit. Just good things are happening. And I'm so glad to see you guys for real. I mean, thank you. Hi,
That's
Miracle.
good stuff, Alicia.
That's really, really good, Alicia. We're glad that you're here and we congratulate you for graduating.